I've always had an interest in physics. I think it really started back in in '97 when I first read A Brief History of Time. I found it fascinating, and on and off I've been watching a lot of videos. I've been reading a lot of books on it, over the years. But recently I started looking at it again because, as a religious person, I was drawn to the subject through some discussions I was having online, and I saw a book by Lawrence Krauss, who's a theoretical physicist, a book by him called The Universe from Nothing. I also watched a debate, this was a while back now, between him and Hamza Tortis. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Which was, Hamza took it on a very much philosophical level. Of course, Lawrence being a theoretical physicist, they got into a lot of discussions about infinities, and they spoke about philosophy, things like that. But recently, when I haven't read the book fully, but I've skimmed through it, I've watched a lot of videos of Lawrence Krauss. I'm still reading it, but I've tried to go to the main areas, like, for example, virtual particles. And I have, like I said, over the years been looking at particle physics, theoretical physics, indirectly cosmology and things like that, and particularly quantum mechanics. I have a really, really deep fascination with quantum mechanics. I like to say that I'm not I don't have a mathematical understanding of these things, which is really what is required if you want to go deep in them. But I think I have a reasonable understanding, definitely by no means an expert. So this something from nothing concept really tickled me. I wanted to understand exactly what was he saying and try to get my head around it. If you read the book, he uses a very anti-theistic narrative. Obviously, it's something which I'm interested in, so I thought I'd look into it. So I'm going to quickly make a quotation from the book. He mentions here, and at the risk of taking this out of context, the particles that appear and disappear in timescales too short to measure are called virtual particles. Now, inventing a whole new set of particles in empty space that you cannot measure sounds a lot like proposing a large number of angels sitting on the head of a pin, and it would be about as impotent an idea if these particles had no other measurable effects. However, while they are not directly observable, it turns out that indirect effects produce most of the characteristics of the universe we experience today. Not only this, but one can calculate the impact of these particles more precisely than any other calculation in science. I believe he's referring here to quantum field theory, or QFT. And in QFT, you have subdisciplines like QED, quantum electrodynamics, and also quantum chromodynamics, QCD, I think that one is. This theory, for those that understand it, I understand that very few people actually can do the mathematics on QFT. This model predicts very, very accurately some of the phenomena we see around us. I've been watching a great YouTube channel called Space-Time PBS, and the presenter on that is a guy called Matt O'Dowd. He's an astrophysicist and an associate professor at City University in New York. He mentioned about virtual particles as well. A couple of things I want to quote. He mentioned that virtual particles are basically a mathematical side effect of using perturbation theory to do QFT calculations. He goes on to say, virtual particles are the mathematical building blocks we use to approximate for complex states of interacting fields. He also said, our mathematical representation of the quantum mechanical behaviors of fields is in the form of virtual particles. If you look at Feynman diagrams, what are the possible interactions that particle can go through? And obviously all of those interactions within the Feynman diagram are using virtual particles. And that's an artifact of the mathematical process that you have to go through in order to do that. It's kind of a very complex field, particle physics, cosmology, theoretical physics. The overriding narrative in the field is one of materialism. But obviously there's a lot of things that physicists, scientists, cosmologists, whatever, They just don't know. There are a lot of theoretics. A lot of these models are built mathematically, and then once the models are built, in order for the equations to actually work, the physicists realize, well, this is not right, I'm missing something here. And then through a process of investigation, trial and error, observation, they realize that other things must be the case. That was, for example, the case with the Higgs boson. And such is the case with quantum field theory. There are so many things in there which, as Krauss mentioned, that they're able to measure things extremely accurately. So other assumptions they've made, which are all dependent on one another, that they find it difficult to believe that it would be incorrect, that all of it was wrong. What I see, for example, in these virtual particles, and an actual, where Krauss talks about something coming out of nothing, I still think there's a lot of semantics about what you call nothing. And another thing which is going around in my head is the Big Bang occurred. We have the cosmic background radiation, and let's just assume that is the peripheries of the universe. What exactly is outside there? And when the universe was a singularity, before the Big Bang, where did that singularity come from? And what was the substrate on which that singularity existed? Is it correct to assume that such fields existed outside of that singularity? Yes, there was one more thing which Dr. Matt mentioned, that there's something called lattice field theory that doesn't use virtual particles and can give the same results. That was what he mentioned. That's something else I need to look into. So anyway, hopefully this blog journey will be something of interest to other people. If not, it's helping me to explore my thoughts, so it will at least be of use to me.